The chapel was dark, not dim, not shadowed, dark. I couldn't see the far wall. I couldn't see my own hands unless the fire shook. The air pressed against my chest like a weight. I heard voices before I saw anyone. Latin, broken, shards of prayer. It didn't sound holy. It sounded tired, twisted, wrong. I walked further in. My boots scraped stone. The echo came back sharp, like steps not my own. The smell hit next, not incense, not candle wax, burned meat, the kind that clings to your throat. I swallowed, but it didn't go away. In the center was a slab. It looked like a table, but it was wrong. Too heavy. Stone cracked down the middle, scratches from knives. On top of it, 13 black candles, arranged in a circle. Flames narrow and mean. They hissed, almost like they were whispering. 12 steady, one that wouldn't obey. The 13th. It shook like breath was on it. I held mine. It bent low, then gave up. Out. A small gasp. Darkness rushed across the circle. I thought it was over. But the wick caught again. A spark. Then flame. Redder than it should be. Not fire. Something else. The smell grew stronger. Burned skin. Burned hair. I knew that smell. I'd smelled it once, too close to a wreck. I wanted to turn away. I didn't. Couldn't. The 13th candle pulsed. Not steady. Beating. Once. Twice. A rhythm not mine. Shadows leaned. I swear the walls breathed with it. Carved saints looked alive. Eyes hollow. Mouths open. For a moment I thought they moved, watching me. I told myself they were stone. But stone doesn't follow you. The voices broke. A pause. Then they started again. Thin. Like thread about to tear. Cold air touched my face, though doors were sealed. Wax bled down like tears. I counted them under my breath, 1 through 12. The last twitched, out again, dark folded over me. Then flame returned, too red, too wet. Iron filled my mouth. The smoke didn't rise, it sank, sliding into cracks beneath the slab, like it was burning a hole into the earth, and something down there breathed back. I wasn't supposed to be there. I knew that the second I followed the narrow stairway down into the ground. Boston has old bones. You walk long enough in the dark and you'll hear them creak. The city keeps its secrets in basements, in cellars, in brick tunnels that never see the sun. This place was one of them. A chapel burned out of history. They called it the Chapel of the 13th Candle. No one spoke the name above ground, only down here, only when the air smelled like ash. I was led down by Father Alden. His hands shook, but not from age. He carried a lantern that sputtered like it didn't want to stay lit. He told me, in a voice dry as stone, that some things don't end even when the fire takes them. The stairs ended at a heavy door, wood warped by smoke. He pushed it open and we stepped inside. The others were already waiting. 13 seats, 12 filled, a circle around the cracked altar, wax already hardened into pale veins across the stone floor. I found my place between a woman named Mara and a man who introduced himself as Frank. Mara wouldn't look at me. She kept wringing her hands, whispering under her breath. Frank only gave me one sharp glance, like he was already looking for a way out. Across from us sat Clara. She looked too young to be here, barely 20. Her hair hung loose, and she kept her eyes fixed on the unlit candle in front of her. Next to her was Alex, older, pale, his lips pressed tight as if he was already praying. Further around the circle I noticed Walter, broad shoulders but a face pulled tight with worry. He gave me the kind of nod that men give when they don't know if they'll see morning. Beyond him were Nathan, Ruth, Caleb, Leah, and Gideon. I didn't speak to them. I only caught their names when Father Alden read them out loud. The air was thick. The altar at the center held the 13 black candles, unlit for now. The wax was scarred, pooled, as if they had burned many times before. Father Alden raised his lantern, and the shadows bent away from his face. His eyes caught the glow. They looked hollow, as if light could pass through. His voice filled the chamber, calm, careful. He told us the rules, 5 of them, spoken as if he'd said them too many times before. The first, we must keep our hands on the book. Each of us had a Bible, worn and broken, laid out before us. The pages smelled of mildew. The leather peeled away like dead skin. If we let go, he said, the flame would vanish, and with it, the soul it marked. The second, none could break the circle. The door behind us was barred, but he warned that the stone itself would not forgive us if we tried to leave. He said the circle was a covenant, and to step outside was to break it. The third, no one could light a candle twice. Once a flame died, it was judgment. To defy it was to call fire down upon yourself. The fourth, we were not to speak to the voices. He said they would call to us. They would use names we loved, but if we answered, we would be theirs. The fifth, the last candle was never to be touched. It was the 13th. It was not for us. If it burned, he said, the ritual was complete. The words fell heavy. They didn't sound like warnings. They sounded like sentences already written. I looked at the faces around me. Mara whispering her own prayer, Frank grinding his teeth, Clara shivering, Alex gripping his Bible so tight I thought the cover would split, Walter staring at the altar like he could already see the end written there. Father Alden lowered the lantern. One by one he lit the 12 outer candles. Black wax bled as they caught flame. The 13th remained dark. Its wick curled, waiting. The Latin began again. This time it was us. Our voices together, stumbling through phrases older than the city itself. The flames bent as we spoke. The room closed in. The circle was sealed. I remember thinking, I should have walked away when I had the chance. I didn't. And now there was no leaving. Not until the 13th candle decided. Father Alden didn't just read the rules. He pressed them in, as if each word carved the stone. When he said, "Keep your hand on the book," I felt the weight of mine grow heavier. The leather stuck to my palm, damp, as if the page itself didn't want to be touched. When he said, "Do not break the circle," Frank gave a short laugh, not out loud, just a breath. I saw it. He thought the old man was mad, but the look Father Alden gave him stopped it, eyes hollow, but sharp enough to cut. Frank shut his mouth. The candlelight showed every nervous shift. Clara's eyes darted to the door again and again. Alex muttered the same line of scripture under his breath, over and over, like a cracked record. Mara shook as if she was already cold. Walter didn't move at all. He stared into nothing, and I thought then that he was the only one who had done this before. The voices rose as the flames caught. Not ours. Not yet. The chamber had its own choir. You couldn't tell where it came from. Sometimes it felt like under the floor. Sometimes it brushed your ear. I told myself I wouldn't listen. I told myself I'd keep my head down, follow the words, and leave when it was over. But I didn't believe that, not even then. The air grew heavier. The smoke didn't rise. It hung low, pressed close to the stone. It forced us down, shoulders bent. I could hear the rules repeating in my head, not in Alden's voice, but in something deeper. A reminder, a threat, a promise. Mara whispered louder. She begged the Virgin to keep her safe. Frank rolled his eyes, but his hand never left the book. Clara's lips trembled as she shaped the Latin she didn't understand. Alex's knuckles bled where he gripped too hard. Walter's lips never moved, but I saw him nod once to no one. Father Alden looked at me last, held my eyes. His mouth barely moved when he said, "Remember the 13th. Do not touch it." He blew out the lantern. Only the black candles lit the room. Dripping wax filled the silence. That was the moment I realized we were locked in, not just by the door, by something older, like stone closed over us. Boston above felt 1,000 miles away. Down here there was nothing but us, the candles, and the rules we could not break. It started sooner than I thought. I told myself we would last an hour, maybe 2. That was a lie. The first crack came minutes in. Alex sat 2 places to my left. His face had gone pale from the start, but now his hands shook so badly I heard the Bible slip against the stone. He whispered, I can't. I wanted to tell him to breathe, to stay still, but the words died in my throat. The rule was clear. Hands on the book, never let go. Father Alden's voice still echoed in my skull. Alex's fingers twitched once more, then lifted. Just an inch. Just long enough. The flame before him hissed, then vanished. He gasped like something had been pulled from his lungs. His body bent back, eyes wide, mouth tearing open. Blood spilled between his teeth, black in the candlelight. He clawed at the book as if trying to grab it again, but his arms jerked too hard, too broken. A crack echoed through the chamber as his neck snapped to the side. His body collapsed, twitching once, then still. The Bible lay under him. The page stuck red to his cheek. The circle broke into noise. Mara screamed. Ruth pulled her hands back from the book before Nathan caught her wrists and forced them down again. Frank half rose to his feet, but Father Alden's hand shot out, gripping his shoulder with a strength no old man should have had. Stay, Alden whispered, his eyes fixed on the dead man as if he had expected it. But none of us could sit still. Clara cried into her sleeve. Walter's jaw worked, grinding. Gideon muttered prayers so fast they blurred. I felt my own hand sweat against the cracked leather, afraid it would slip. Frank shouted, "This is insane! He's dead! But his voice broke when the door boomed shut. We all turned. The only exit had sealed. A bar of iron had fallen across from the inside, though none of us had touched it. The sound was too loud, too final. Frank rushed to it anyway. He threw his weight against the wood. Nothing moved. His palms slammed until they bled. Still nothing. The flames bent inward toward Alex's corpse, feeding on the smoke. The 13th flickered once, bright red, then steadied. No one spoke, not even Father Alden. For a moment all I heard was wax dripping, thick as blood. Then Mara began to pray aloud. Her voice cracked, uneven, like a child's. Frank cursed her for it. Nathan told them both to shut up, but the sound kept building. Footsteps, not ours, in the walls, in the ceiling, under the floor. They circled us the way we circled the altar. Alex's eyes were still open. His lips moved, though no breath passed them. I saw words form. Latin. Mocking our prayers. Clara reached out, almost touched him, then yanked her hand back. The rule. Don't break the circle. Don't reach. Don't touch. I shut my eyes and whispered the count of the flames. 1 through 11 now. The 12th gone, and the 13th waiting. When I opened them, the shadows had moved closer. It was only the beginning. What happened to Alex didn't end with his death. It lingered. His body twitched long after it should have been still. Fingers clutched at nothing. The Bible beneath him curled, heat rising from his chest. His blood steamed on the leather. We all watched, waiting for him to stop. He didn't. Every nerve in his body kept firing, jerking him upright, then slamming him down again. His jaw snapped open and shut until his teeth broke. Mara sobbed. Ruth shut her eyes. Nathan held her wrists. Forcing her hands down, Frank tore free of Alden's grip and slammed his fists into the barred door. The iron groaned but didn't shift. His knuckles split open, blood streaking the wood. He cursed until his voice cracked. Alden only stood, eyes lowered, lips moving in a prayer none of us understood. Walter finally spoke, his voice low. He said, "Sit down." or you'll make it worse." Frank spat back that he didn't care. He wouldn't die here like a rat. But his eyes betrayed him. He was afraid, more than afraid. Clara begged someone to help Alex. She reached toward him again, and I had to grab her wrist to stop her. Her skin burned against mine, hot, feverish. She pulled back, trembling, and fixed her eyes on me like I'd betrayed her. The shadows in the corners stirred with every word spoken. The Latin swelled, answering our fear. They spoke in rhythm with Alex's spasms, every jerk of his limbs matched by a note of sound. Then silence. His body went limp. His eyes stared glassy at the ceiling. The flame before him guttered and died for good. We sat frozen. None wanted to move. The rules were carved into our skulls now. Don't break the circle. Don't leave the book. Don't relight the candle. Don't answer the whispers. Don't touch the 13th. But rules meant nothing when a man died beside you. Frank pressed his forehead against the door, whispering for someone to open it. Anyone. His voice cracked. No one answered. Mara finally looked at Alden. Her eyes begged, "Do something." He didn't look at her. He looked at Alex. His mouth moved, soundless. I realized then he hadn't been surprised. Not at all. The rest of the candles burned steady, wax pooling black. I thought of blood vessels splitting wide. The 13th candle trembled again. My throat tightened. Alex twitched once more. His mouth stretched into a smile. His tongue, black, lolled against his teeth. Mara shrieked. Clara covered her face. Walter whispered scripture, his eyes never leaving the corpse. And then I heard it. His voice. Not Alden, not anyone living. Alex spoke. The sound crawled from his throat. Groans, cracks, then Latin, clear and strong. The same fragments we'd been forced to chant. Perfect, too perfect. The room echoed with it. Our own voices twisted back against us. I clenched my teeth but couldn't shut it out. The sound filled the room. Frank slammed his fists again. The candles flared. Alden raised his hand and told us to hold. His tone wasn't pleading. It was command. Absolute. We obeyed. Alex's mouth finally stopped moving. Blood leaked from his ears. His head rolled to one side. The stench made me gag. Walter leaned toward me. His whisper barely reached my ear. 1 gone, 12 left. I nodded, though I didn't want to. My hand clutched the Bible until the spine split. I didn't let go. I couldn't. I knew the rules were real, and I knew we were trapped. Time blurred after Alex's death. Seconds stretched. Every breath felt stolen. We stared at his body, but none of us wanted to be the one to move. The circle was a prison. We watched each other. The door loomed behind Frank, scarred with iron bolts. He pounded until his palms left blood on the grain. Each blow echoed back as if mocked. Mara begged him to stop. He spat at the stone and shouted he'd rather burn than sit here like cattle. His voice cracked. Yet he stayed inside the circle. Even his anger bent to the rule. The whispers grew louder. They said our names. Clara's eyes shot wide when she heard hers. Ruth pressed her forehead to her Bible and cried out. Gideon's lips stuttered half a psalm before collapsing into silence. I kept my eyes on the floor. I thought if I didn't look up, they wouldn't see me. A voice coiled beside my ear, using my mother's voice. It said my name. Just my name. I bit down on my tongue until I tasted blood. I didn't answer. Alden raised his arms. His shadow stretched too long. His voice boomed, drowning the whispers, repeating the rules. His words were law. Do not move your hands. Do not leave the circle. Do not relight the flame. Do not speak back. Do not touch the 13th. Each line snapped through the chamber. The whispers retreated. Sucked into the walls. Frank asked what God would trap us. Alden didn't flinch. He said this wasn't God's doing. His voice was steady, but his hands shook. I saw them tremble where he tried to hide them in his sleeves. Alex's corpse twitched. His chest rose though no air entered. His tongue lolled, then split. Black smoke poured from the wound, curling across the stones. It crawled between our feet like a living thing. Clara whimpered. Walter dragged his chair back. Even that sound felt like it would break the circle. We all froze. Alden's eyes flashed and he whispered, "Do not break it." So we sat, trapped between wax and shadow, blood and bone. Time kept moving, each drip of wax a countdown, each beat of the 13th a warning. Alex's death was only the first, and the circle had 12 left to claim. I thought Alex's death would be the end. I was wrong. The circle was only beginning to hunger. Clara would not stop staring at the dead candle. Her face was pale, lips shaking. She whispered, "Please." A single word, almost soundless, but it made every head turn. Frank snapped at once. "Don't you dare!" His voice cracked, more fear than anger. Mara clutched her Bible tighter. "Clara, no," she begged. Her eyes pleaded harder than her words. Walter said nothing. He only leaned forward, his stare locked on Clara's trembling hands. I leaned in, careful not to lift my palms. "Don't," I told her. "You know the rule." My voice shook and I hated the weakness in it. She shook her head, strands of hair sticking to her cheeks. "I can fix it," she said. "I can bring him back." Father Alden's voice came low, thin, almost lost beneath the dripping wax. "Child," he said, "do not test the fire." But she would not hear. Her eyes kept darting to Alex's body slumped beside her, to the dead wick in front of him. "It was my fault," she said. "I let him stay there. I should have moved him. I should have taken it." The 13th candle pulsed once, faint, and I felt it in my chest like a second heartbeat. I wanted to drag her back, but the law held me. Frank spat at the floor. "She's gone mad," he said. "Don't be stupid, Clara." Her chin lifted, defiant. "He's still warm," she whispered. "I can feel it. He isn't gone." Her fingers lifted from the book, one by one, 10 little betrayals. The circle quivered with it. I felt the shift like a cord snapping in my gut. Alden's lips barely moved. "Keep your hands on the book," he whispered. But she didn't. Her hand hovered above the dead wick. Her left pressed the altar for balance. Her lips moved in a prayer none of us knew. "Clara," I begged, "look at me. Don't do this." Mara cried harder. "Please don't," she sobbed. "You'll damn us all." Clara didn't look. She leaned into the nearest flame, her sleeve brushing the living candle. Fire-kissed cloth, hungry, eager. Frank shouted, "Clara!" But too late. The fire leapt. A thin tongue found the dead wick, and for one heartbeat it glowed. For one heartbeat I believed. Then it bloomed. A flower of red burst open, devouring the space between them. The fire raced up her arm inside her sleeve, and she screamed. "Help me!" she shrieked, the sound ragged. "Please!" Mara stood before she could think. "Take it off!" she cried. "Put it out!" Alden thundered. "Hands on the book!" His old voice cracked stone. Walter seized Mara's wrist, yanking her back into place. "Stay," he barked. "If you move, you die." Clara slapped at her sleeve, but the fire slid faster, deep red, eating as it climbed. The smell hit us, hair first, then skin. A stink of rot and roast that clung to our throats. "It hurts," Clara sobbed. "God, it hurts." "Keep your hands down," Alden ordered. His voice shook now. Frank half rose, eyes darting to the sealed door. "To hell with this," he growled. He tensed, ready to bolt, but Walter's arm barred him like iron. "Sit," Walter said. Frank spat curses, but he sat. His hands clung to the Bible as though it were nailed there. Clara's veins glowed beneath her skin. Red lines traced her arm like burning ropes. She clawed at herself, shrieking, but her nails tore nothing. She turned her face toward Alex, tears streaked her cheeks. "I can fix it," she gasped. "I can give him back." Alden's voice fell hollow. "You cannot. I can, she screamed. Please! The fire reached her throat. Her cry broke into a wet hiss. She gulped at the smoke as though it might breathe her. Mara wailed, breaking again. I caught her sleeve without leaving my Bible. Don't, I whispered. You'll be next. Mara shook, sobbing. She's a child. Frank snapped. She chose. She touched it. Alden's eyes shut. His mouth muttered words older than Latin. Clara coughed. Smoke poured from her mouth, black and heavy. It didn't rise. It fell, dripping onto the altar, crawling toward the 13th. The 13th pulsed. I felt it in my ribs, another heart. Thud, thud. It wanted. Alden, I whispered. What is it? He ignored me. He stared at Clara as her knees buckled. Her hand slapped the altar, struck the wick she longed to relight. The red bloom surged, swallowing her whole arm. Steve, she mouthed. No voice left, only air. Her body convulsed, light flashing through veins. Walter muttered low. Don't look. But I did. I watched her shoulder vanish in crimson glare. I watched her chest bow as light burst through her ribs. Mara screamed. Ruth buried her face. Nathan rocked in place, chanting broken psalms. Gideon whispered, Lord have mercy, over and over. Alden raised his voice, shaking. Do not relight what was judged. Do not take back what was taken. Clara's body bent forward. Smoke poured from her eyes. Then the bloom collapsed. Light clenched, dragging her in. She slammed the altar once, then was gone. No body, only emptiness. The seat was empty, the wick black as before. Clara erased. Mara sobbed. She's gone. Ruth whispered prayers. Frank pressed his head to the Bible. Walter kept still as stone. I could not breathe. Frank broke the silence. Open the door, he said. His voice was dead flat. Open it. No one moved. Alden's eyes were on the center. I followed them. That was when I saw it. The 13th candle had never burned, not once. Its wick was untouched, clean, pure black. It's never lit, I said, not even now. Alden stiffened. He leaned close, pale light washing his face thin. His whisper scratched air. It does not burn. Then what is it? I asked. My throat was dry as sand. He swallowed hard. It waits. Waits for what? His gaze swept us, slow, measuring. He looked at me too long, then away. Not what, he whispered. Who? Frank snarled. Say it. Alden lowered his mouth toward the altar as if confessing to stone. That one belongs to the devil. The words twisted the chamber. The air drew tight. Flames bent inward, then straightened as if nodding. The Latin in the walls turned to laughter. Mara cried, No! Frank shouted, Then blow it out! End it! Alden shook his head hard. Do not touch the 13th. You expect us to sit here after that? Frank spat. After her? Yes, Alden said. You will sit, you will not break the circle. Frank clenched his fists, then sagged. He sat. He didn't lift his hands. None of us did. I stared at the 13th. It pulled at me. Not flame, hunger, a mouth waiting. I thought of Clara's eyes. I thought of Alex's false breath, the smoke that sank, the second heart that was not mine. I whispered, How many times has this been done? Alden gave no answer. He didn't need to. The walls, the floor, the wax veins spoke instead. They said it had happened before, too many times. Walter's voice cut. Then judge it, he said. His tone carried weight, as if he had seen this once already. Judge it now. Alden only shook his head. We will wait, he said. We will not break the law. The 13th pulsed again, a rhythm in the stone, a drum beneath us. I knew how it would end, not with mercy, with counting, with taking. And the 13th waited still, patient, until its owner came to claim it. The silence was worse than the scream. It pressed against our ears as if the chamber itself held its breath. The The whispers came again, sly, weaving through stone. They spoke Clara's name now, stretching it, mocking it. Mara clamped her hands over her ears. Frank spat at the floor, but his spit steamed where it landed. Walter stared at Alden, his jaw tight, as though demanding he answer. I felt the pull of the 13th more with every breath. It wasn't light. It was attention, a gaze without eyes. I whispered to myself, "Don't look." I failed. I kept looking. Alden's shoulders slumped. His hands trembled at his sides. For a moment he looked every bit the frail old man he should have been. Then the shadows thickened behind him, and he straightened again as if something held him upright. He told us, "The circle is the only thing keeping us alive." His voice cracked like dry paper. Mara whimpered, "Then let us leave." He turned to her sharply. "If you leave, you carry it with you. Do you want the city to burn?" No one answered. We could not. The thought rooted terror in our bones. The 13th pulsed once more, stronger. The stone floor beat with it, a steady drum. It waited, patient, like a beast that knew the cage would open eventually. Frank's breathing grew louder with every second. His eyes darted to the door, to the bolts, to the walls that curved inward like ribs of a cage. I knew what he was thinking before he moved. His jaw set, his knuckles whitened on the Bible. Then he let go. The sound of leather peeling from skin echoed like a curse. His chair scraped, his boots struck stone. "Stop!" Alden barked, but Frank didn't stop. He lunged toward the door, shoulders broad, rage stronger than fear. The iron groaned when he hit it. He pounded until his hands bled. The circle trembled behind him. The candles swayed. Then the air shifted. Something unseen grabbed him. His body snapped backward, yanked by an invisible rope. He screamed, "No!" His feet dragged furrows into the dust. He clawed at the frame. His shoulder popped, bone cracked. The pull was merciless. He struck the floor hard. I heard ribs split like dry sticks. His body folded, then broke again. One final scream cut short as his head twisted too far, jaw still wide. The door never opened. Frank lay crumpled, bones pointing wrong, blood soaking into the grooves of stone. His candle went out. No one moved. No one breathed. The circle was thinner now, the air colder. Mara's sobs cracked the silence. She shook, rocking, whispering prayers. The whispers answered. They came soft, coaxing, curling into her ears. Not Latin this time, not the dead tongue of rituals. It was her son's voice, high, young, the one she had buried years ago. "Mama," the word echoed, sweet, soft, a knife dressed as a lullaby. Mara froze. Her lips trembled. "Daniel," she whispered, "Mama, I'm cold. Please answer me." She broke. "I'm here," she cried. "I'm here, my boy." The moment the words left her lips, her flame died. Black smoke rose. Her chair was empty. No scream, no body. Only the sound of her name stretched thin as it sank into the dark. The circle shuddered. Wax bled from every candle. The 13th pulsed again. Then it spoke. Not to all of us. To me. A whisper slipped beneath the prayers, beneath the sobs. It used my name, clear, icy, intimate. "Steve." I clenched my teeth. My fingers dug into the Bible. I didn't answer. The voice curled closer, filling my skull. "When all are ash, you will shine. When all burn out, you will burn brightest." I shut my eyes. I told myself it wasn't real, but the 13th flame beat like a heart inside the dark, and it was waiting. Frank had been restless since Clara vanished. His shoulders never stopped twitching, his breath ragged. Each drip of wax made him flinch. When he rose, it was like the circle itself sighed in warning. He tore free of its law, and the chamber reacted. The door was massive, older than Boston, iron veins through rotting wood. Frank slammed into it like a bull. His fists thundered, his curses tore the air. We begged without words, eyes wide, but none of us could risk breaking the circle to drag him back. The air folded around him, the walls groaned as though alive. Then came the pull, sharp, sudden, violent. He was yanked across the floor, arms flailing, nails carving splinters. The scream that left him was not human anymore, but torn, jagged, breaking. Bones shattered louder than the candle's hiss. His body contorted, ankles snapped, knees bent wrong. A final crack echoed like thunder when his spine broke. His candle shriveled into smoke. The circle lost another flame. We sat paralyzed. The silence after his death was worse than the noise. Wax dripped. Shadows leaned closer. The whispers thickened. Mara rocked. She clutched her arms to her chest, shaking like a reed in storm water. She whispered prayers that stumbled, falling apart on her tongue. Then came the other voice, high, familiar. A child's tone, sweet as honey, but wrong in its echo. Mama. Her body stiffened, her head jerked up, her lips trembled, eyes wet. Daniel, she gasped. We all heard it, the boy's voice again. Mama, it's me. I'm so cold. Please hold me. I felt my stomach clench. I wanted to shout at her to remind her of the law, but my mouth refused to open. Mara sobbed. I'm here, my boy, she said. I'm here. Her flame died. The sound of her erasure was like parchment burned. She was gone. Empty chair, dead silence, her candle smoking black. The circle bled wax, the floor groaned. Two gone in breaths. The shadows fed. The 13th pulsed, once, twice. Then a whisper slid through marrow, not to all, to me. It said my name. Steve. I froze. My palms locked to the Bible until the cracked leather cut my skin. I didn't answer. The whisper lingered, brushing inside my skull like fingers pressing the soft of my brain. When all are ash, you will shine. When all burn, you will burn brightest. The words licked my ear, though no lips were near. I smelled iron. I tasted ash. I shut my eyes. But the whisper painted itself on the back of my lids. The 13th candle glowed in rhythm with my heart. I couldn't tell anymore. The circle trembled. The walls whispered names. Not just Mara, not just Frank. My name. Over and over. Steve, Steve, Steve. I didn't answer. I couldn't. But the flame in the center seemed to smile. Alden's face had sunk into shadow. His lips moved in frantic silence, prayers we could not hear. Or maybe bargains. His hands shook despite being pressed flat to the Bible. Walter stared at him, eyes narrow, as though he finally saw the cracks in the priest. Ruth whimpered. Nathan pressed his forehead to the book. The whispers grew louder. They crawled over us like insects, each one choosing a target. Some spoke Latin, some spoke in voices we loved. I heard my mother. Clear as when she called me to supper as a child. I shut my eyes. My throat clenched. The law echoed in my skull. Don't answer. Don't. But Mara had, and she was gone. The darkness between the candles thickened. It smelled like rust. The 13th glowed faint, as if tasting the air. Its wick had never burned, but it pulsed like a vein under skin. Then came the promise again, closer, heavier. When all are gone, you will remain. When all are ash, you will shine. I whispered into my teeth, too low for anyone to hear. I will not. But the flame beat with my blood, and deep down I feared it was not a threat. It was a vow. Wax dripped black rivers across the altar. Only two of us left, me and Walter. His eyes met mine across the table, red-rimmed, hollow, but burning with something that might have been faith or madness. His lips moved, asking without words. The 13th candle stood untouched, its wick black, its shape proud in the center of ruin. I remembered Alden's words, words that cracked in the dark like bone. That one belongs to the devil. Walter's hands trembled in the Bible, his knuckles pale. He did not speak. He didn't have to. His whole body begged me to do it, to reach across the circle and end the night by giving in. My palms raw, breath shallow, air thick with smoke. I thought of Alden's eyes when he realized the candle had never burned. Walter leaned forward. He pressed his forehead to the Bible, then lifted it to me. A nod. A plea. His lips shaped one word. Please. I shook my head. My throat burned with refusal. I could not speak. The 13th pulsed. I felt it inside me, deeper than blood, older than marrow. A rhythm that was not mine. A promise already written. Every flame bent inward. Walter's chair scraped. He rose. His hands did not leave the book, but his body leaned to the circle's edge, closer to me, closer to the waiting wick. I closed my eyes. I told myself not to move. I told myself to remember the law. My hand lifted anyway. It hovered above the stone, shaking. My fingers curled like claws. The air burned against my skin, heat without fire. My shadow stretched, trembling, drawn toward the 13th as if the candle pulled not light but life. I thought, if I touch it, it ends. If I touch it, it takes. I thought, this is how the story was always meant to close. I opened my eyes. Walter was watching me. His lips moved again. Please. His eyes glistened, desperate, demanding. He wanted the fire. He wanted the end. My hand drifted closer. I could hear my pulse, or maybe the pulse of the candle. They beat together, no longer separate. Then it happened. Before my skin met the wick, before I could decide, the candle bloomed. It erupted without touch, red as blood, a fountain of fire that screamed without sound. It split the shadows and filled the chamber with a glow that ate every other flame. Walter gasped. His body leaned into it, eyes wide, arms open as if embracing something holy. The fire caught him like a hand. His scream tore the silence, sharp, high, broken. His back arched, his chest split light, his skin cracked in burning rivers. He reached once toward me, then the fire closed. In an instant, he was gone. Not ash, not bone. Gone. The red swallowed him whole, dragging him into the flame like water takes a drowning man. I fell back, palms pressed hard to the Bible. My teeth cut my tongue. My body shook, waiting for the pull, for the fire to turn to me. But it didn't. The 13th burned alone, steady, calm, as if nothing had happened. Its glow filled the circle. Its rhythm filled my chest. The chamber was quiet again. Too quiet. My breath rattled in the silence. The candle burned, patient, endless. I remembered the whisper, the promise it made. When all are ash, you will shine. And in the heart of the dark, with only the devil's flame for company, I realized it had already chosen me. The heat from the 13th reached me, though no flame touched my skin. It sank into bone, deeper than marrow, as if rewriting what I was. I tried to breathe, but every breath tasted of rust and smoke. The chamber itself seemed to contract with each beat of the candle, stone grinding as though the walls drew closer. The other candles guttered, bowed, their light devoured by the red. The circle no longer protected. It only contained. Walter's chair lay overturned where he had risen. His absence screamed. The smell of him lingered, bitter, scorched, sweet all at once. I stared at the empty place where he had been and felt my body sway. The book beneath my palms had grown hot, as though the words inside wanted to sear themselves into my flesh. I tried to remember prayer, tried to string words into sense. Nothing came, only silence and the echo of Mara's voice answering her son. only the whisper promising me the end. The shadows pressed inward, bowing to the flame. I realized then that nothing in the room had shape anymore except the candle. It was the only true thing left. My name pulsed in my skull. Steve. Steve. Each beat carried with it an image. Alex gasping, Clara burning, Frank dragged, Mara silenced, Walter consumed. Each image bent into the same truth. It was always for one. I pressed my eyes shut and told myself not to see, not to listen, not to believe. But darkness only made the glow brighter behind my lids. The candle's breath washed over me, though it had no lungs, the air heavy like kneeling at a furnace. The skin of my face prickled, raw, blistering with invisible heat. I thought of Alden, his voice saying, "That one belongs to the devil." And I wondered if he had known who would be left, if this had been written long before we stepped into the crypt. I wanted to flee, but the door was a wall, the air a cage, my legs chained. All that remained was the book under my palms and the fire before my eyes. A low hum spread through the chamber, so deep it rattled my ribs. At first I thought it was the stone. Then I knew it was me. My chest answered the candle. My heart beat its rhythm. 1, 2, 1, 2. I leaned forward, body dragged by something older than choice. My lips parted. A prayer I had never learned spilled out, harsh, jagged. I clamped my teeth shut. The words still flowed, carved from me, as if my tongue no longer belonged to me. I smelled hair singe. My skin steamed. The walls were still, the air solid, the other candles dead. Only the 13th lived, and it was enough. I looked at Walter's empty space, wanting to say sorry. No one left to hear. Only the flame. Only me. And in that silence, I felt the truth rise in me like smoke. The night had ended, the ritual complete, but not in release, in coronation. I remembered the promise, when all are ash, you will shine. And I knew then that the fire was not waiting for Walter, not for Alden, not for anyone else. It had always waited for me. I am still here. The city above breathes as though nothing has happened. The streets roll on, car horns, laughter in bars, the distant toll of church bells. Yet I sit with silence in me, heavy, a silence that remembers every scream. The crypt let me go, or thought it did. My body rose from that chamber, but part of me never left. Part of me still kneels before the 13th flame. I carry the stink of smoke in my hair, the iron taste of blood at the back of my throat. The book left marks in my palms where I clutched it. They have not faded. Sometimes I wake and see them glow red in the dark. I should tell myself it is memory, trauma, the brain breaking itself to explain the unspeakable. But I know better. Each night I try to pray, words I learned as a child, words my mother whispered before sleep, "Our Father, deliver us from evil." I shape them in my mouth, and each time, before I finish, another sound slips in. Laughter, low, patient, curling beneath the syllables like smoke under a door. Lucifer. I never saw him, never named him there, yet I know whose fire that was. The 13th was his. Alden's whisper told us, my blood confirmed it. Walter's eyes proved it when he reached for the flame and was consumed. The city does not know what was fed beneath its stone. They walk on. They live and sin and pray in pews, and they never hear the drum beneath their feet. But I do. It follows me. The beat walks with me through crowded streets, beneath lamplight, beneath rain. The beat keeps time when I sleep, when I eat, when I breathe. A second pulse. Not mine. Never mine. Sometimes I look into mirrors and see the glow behind my eyes, faint, but there. Sometimes a shadow bends wrong across the wall, bowing toward me as though I am the flame. I tell myself not to believe. I tell myself not to bend. But belief is no longer mine to choose. When I kneel in church, I feel the weight of it most. The candles flicker in patterns only I can see. Priests talk of salvation. I taste ash. And in the stillness after prayer, when the world is meant to be clean, the laugh comes again. Not loud, never loud, just enough. Enough to remind me I live. But I live as vessel. A cage around something that waited longer than stone, longer than faith. I tried once to write it down, to make confession to paper. The pen burned in my hand until I dropped it. The words scrawled themselves in black across the page without ink. I tore it up. The scrap smoked. I do not write again. I speak it now, into this dark, where only the walls listen. This is my confessional, my truth. I survived the circle. I carry its mark. And each night when I whisper a prayer, when I try to beg forgiveness, the laugh of Lucifer answers. Because in the deepest room, beyond stone, beyond silence, there is always one candle that has never gone out, and it burns for me. Alex with blood on his lips, Clara's veins lit like wires, Mara whispering to the ghost of her boy, Frank twisted on the floor, bone and rage shattered, Walter's last look before the red devoured him. I could be drunk to collapse and still hear the candle whisper, still feel the pulse that is not mine. The Bible burns in my grip. Its words blur when I stare too long, the letters writhing like insects. And still I carry it, not to save me, to bind me, like chains bind the condemned. My hands shine red as if I hold it still. My throat dries, my teeth ache, my eyes sting with smoke no one else sees. I am prisoner, I am marked. Sometimes it is Alden's chanting the law that failed us. Sometimes it is my own, already twisted, already other. Whether the 13th waits for a place to spread, or whether it waits only for me to collapse and let it out. But I know this, it will not fade. It cannot. It is patient. Older than my fear, older than faith. And I know the truth no priest would dare write. The devil does not demand worship. He waits for silence. He waits for surrender. And I am close, too close. I write this as confession, not to be forgiven, but to be known. If one soul reads these words, let them understand. The 13th candle never dies. It waits. It has always waited. And it is chosen.